Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome into Morning in the Valley. I'm Jeff Bidwell. We've got a full house today. Coming up in about 10 minutes, we are going to talk with the just completing his first year as the men's basketball coach at UIC. We're going to talk with Rob Ehsan. And then coming up at the bottom of the hour, we will talk with David Ragland, men's basketball coach at the University of Evansville. As a big week for Coach Ragland. We'll get into that in just a moment. Glad you are with us today, wherever you're watching, either on X, Facebook, YouTube. As always, my gentle nudge every morning. If you can just do us a favor, head on over to YouTube, search out Morning in the Valley, subscribe to the page, like it, share it with all of your Missouri Valley Conference loving friends, because we will be here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. right here during the off season. And subscribe to YouTube. That little notification bell will go off every time we go live. Again, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here at 9 a.m. All right. Well, it is April's sort of transfer portal season. At least the first day of May, it has become contract extension season, and that begins with Ryan Pedon at Illinois State, as he has signed a contract extension through the 2029-30 season. Not too bad for an early birthday present, as he gets to celebrate another circle around the sun coming up tomorrow. But he has a new contract extension, 3 years there at Illinois State, and it has been slow, steady growth in those 3 seasons. 11 wins his first year, 15 in the second, 22 this past year in year number 3, including a CBI championship. And really especially at the mid-major level, that the overall record can sometimes be misleading just because of your, the non-conference schedule can sometimes be a little wonky, sometimes challenging for a variety of reasons that may not necessarily show the growth in the program. But from a conference standpoint, 6 wins his first year in the Valley to 9 to 10 this year, finishing in a tie for 5th. So you see the progress, and certainly being able to punctuate this season with a CBI championship. The 22 wins, the most since 2017, first winning season in normal since 2019. So good things happening for Ryan Pedon. And certainly when you look at everybody coming back, as we have talked about and beaten that drum for more than a month, with 2 all-league guys coming back, expectations will be sky high for Ryan Pedon and the Redbirds of Illinois State heading into the 2025-26 season. Another contract extension, and that belongs to David Ragland at Evansville, who we'll talk to in 25 minutes here at the bottom of the hour. His extension as well, running through the 29-30 season. His birthday was on Monday, so a little belated happy birthday to Coach Ragland, and a little belated birthday gift for him. And again, talk about the progress of the program as he has just finished his 3rd year, 5 wins in year 1. The leap all the way to 17 in year 2, a step back again from an overall perspective this year, 11 and 21. And a lot of that, when you go back and sort of audit the year, it was, in November into December, a challenging non-conference schedule, but also some key injuries. Gabriel Pizzato missed a bunch of time. But when you look at the league record and what he has done in those 3 years, to go from 1 win in year 1 to 6 wins in year 2, and then 8 in year 3, going from 12th, 10th, 8th, just slowly climbing that ladder, slow but sure, climbing the ladder there in the Missouri Valley. Coach Ragland rewarded with a new contract and an extension that runs through the 2030 season. So we'll talk about that with him coming up here again at about 9:30 this morning. Some old friends, and I don't even know if we can officially call him an old friend, since he was technically never part of the Missouri Valley Conference, but former Belmont standout Evan Brads, who played at Belmont from 2013 to 17 when the Bruins were still part of the Ohio Valley Conference, yesterday announced that he is a new assistant coach under John Shire down there at Duke. It's been quite a journey for him. His playing days ended and kind of got into the coaching side on the professional side. Worked in the Boston Celtics organization. Most recently was a assistant coach with the Utah Jazz, but now coming back to college, and he has earned a spot there on the bench down there in Durham with the Blue Devils. Congratulations to Indiana State assistant coach Justin Furr, as he is now a head coach at the Division II level at Barry University. He's been at Indiana State the last 3 seasons, certainly a great run there with Josh Schertz, and then last year with Matthew Graves. But prior to some Division I experience, spent 5 years as an assistant coach at Barry University, and now getting an opportunity for the first time to be a head coach. And so congratulations there to Justin Furr. It'll be Monday. We will talk with new Valparaiso women's head coach, Courtney Boyd. And she's still picking up some honors from her last position as the head coach at Division II Quincy. The Illinois Basketball Coaches Association honoring her as the Great Lakes Valley Conference Coach of the Year. 25-8 this season with Quincy. They only won 10 games last year, so a plus 15 improvement. Won the GLVC tournament championship, first time that had happened at Quincy since 2005. Got the program back to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2016. So there is obviously a program builder, and that is what Valpo is looking for, and certainly part of the reason why she was the choice to bring in to take over that Valpo program. So again, we'll talk with Courtney Boyd coming up on Monday morning. Staff, in terms of hiring staff for Courtney Boyd, got kind of, I don't want to say late, but a little late when she was finally brought in there to Valpo, is just in terms of the hiring cycle. Already has one assistant on staff, and now she has announced there is a second, and this one is a retention of a staff member from last year, Andrew Witt, who was in had his first season in Valpo last year, working for Mary Evans. He will be sticking around with the Beacons program. And when I was doing a little homework on Andrew Witt, I was excited to see that our personal Venn diagrams, although decades apart, sort of came together. A graduate of the Ohio University, always good to see that. And when he was just cutting his coaching teeth, he was an assistant coach at Alexander High School, which is just down the road from Ohio University. And when I was in college, many moons ago, I coached high school basketball at another high school that was just down the road from Alexander High School. So I can't wait to be in the same gym with Coach Witt, and he and I can have a conversation about Tri-Valley Conference basketball that no one in America, and maybe not even Coach Witt, will be interested in having. But congratulations to Andrew Witt for sticking around. Speaking of old friends, Mary Evans, she has found a new head coaching, or not a new coaching position, going from Valpo, 7 years there with the Beacons. She has now moved down to IU Indy, where she has joined that program as an assistant coach. Lots of coaching news today. I feel like we've been talking about commitments and signings and portals and stuff all through April. Now that we are into May, we have some coaching news. Coming out of the gates today, Drake women's head coach Allison Pullman has added to her staff, as she has hired Kristen Rotert as a new assistant coach. Rotert spent 4 years as a head coach at Northwestern College, an NAIA program in Orange City, Iowa. So certainly familiar with the area, familiar with the region, has head coaching experience, and will be a solid addition there for Coach Pullman. Speaking of Coach Pullman, we will talk with her next Wednesday here on this program, along with Missouri Valley Conference Commissioner Jeff Jackson. As we wait on Coach Ehsan, he will be here in just a minute, as we turn our attention now to some player additions. We have Northern Iowa has signed a couple guys that, we're going to get to that in just a minute, because our man has appeared. And here is Rob Ehsan this morning, the head coach of the Flames of UIC. Coach, good morning. How's the Windy City today?
Jeff, good. It's a little rainy. We're still waiting for the full sun to for this place to get warm here. So we're in a good. It's a good though. It's good.
Year 2, I guess, officially has begun for you. How much more settled as a basketball coach? How much more settled as a husband and a father and all of it are you today, as opposed to maybe 365 days ago?
Yeah, I mean, just so way more settled. I think really, when you're my age and you have a family and 3 kids and you go through what, last year, the transition, I think the biggest part of getting settled is just the family. So last year, this time I was living in a dorm. I was at a dorm in UIC there for about a couple months as our family transitioned out, but we love living here in Chicago. Kids have found a community, if you will, here up in the northern suburbs where we live. And and I don't know if as a basketball coach in April and early May, if you'll ever feel settled unless some drastic changes happen in terms of your roster and all the stuff that is going on now. But definitely personally, we're in a great spot here and really love UIC and obviously what we did last year and looking forward to what the future holds.
You guys were, as I took in all the Valley schools in November and checking everybody out, I said more than once, you guys were kind of my Valley basketball crush last year, because I was like, wow, this is a different product than we've seen in the past. You guys are playing a great style, you're winning games, and then you get into league, you beat Drake at home, you go to Peoria and hammer Bradley, and it was like, look out. And then the wheels wobbled a little bit down the stretch, and you lose 7-10. But now with 2 months of perspective and self audit, what went sideways a little bit for you guys that you just weren't able to sustain maybe the first 3 months of the year into March?
Well, offensively, we really struggled shooting the ball down the stretch, and we were on some. I've said this before, we were on a heater shooting the ball for a long period of time. And we had multiple guys on our team that were shooting the ball at career high numbers there for a long stretch of time. And the way we played, I think we relied probably on 3-point shooting, maybe a little too much. As the season went on, I think it was, potentially fatigue, but we didn't shoot the ball well. We actually defended much better than we were earlier in the year at the end of the year. But yeah, we kind of struggled offensively there for a minute. And I think, and then the other thing that's just hard to really put into context how much or know is, when Sasha Siani got sick, which he was essentially out for 2 weeks. Prior to that, he was one of the best big guys I felt like in the Missouri Valley. It took him, he was really not himself for a long time there at the end of the season, which I think drastically also just affected our success.
Overall, though, when you look at it, it's, from the metric standpoint that we all love, it's your best Ken Palm numbers for the program since 2009, best net numbers in program history. Was there a sense of, it didn't end the way you wanted, but was it still in a sense of, all right, year one, we feel like we've accomplished something?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think, listen, given where UIC basketball had been, and, I think there was 68 coaches hired. Yeah, there's one of the graphics. There were 68 coaches hired last year. And I think we had the 5th best turnaround. Look, there's a ton to be proud of. I think I said this from the day I got the job, though. We wanted to put ourselves in a position to compete for a championship. I'd been a head coach before. I've had a winning season every year I've been a head coach. So I think when you're aspiring for greatness, which we have been since day one, yeah, I think there was some disappointment in how the season ended. But there's also a ton of reflection to, we also got to be realistic of where the program was before we got here, right? What the overall success, as you mentioned, we had a ton of momentum, a lot of positivity, I think, around Chicago about UIC. And I'll be honest, Jeff, where it shows up most is in scheduling, because last year everybody wanted to play UIC, and now nobody in the country is excited or willing to play us. It's been I shouldn't say nobody, but it's been scheduling. Has been an incredible challenge. So that's another sign that that you did something well in year one, and people now I think recognize that we're building something successfully.
4 years at UAB from 2016 to 20, and now at UIC, and in that interim where you were not a head coach, the entire profession changed in a lot of ways. How different is the job? Is it the same job in a lot of ways? It just, And how do you wrap your head around, I've spent my entire professional career trying to prepare to do this job, and then the entire world just shifted under your feet?
When I was at UAB, which was not, as you just mentioned, look, that was, less than, 5 years ago, right? So
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago, it wasn't that long ago. There wasn't really any transfers. I mean,
Right.
there was the transfer rule of you could transfer and not sit out was not a thing. I'll never forget, Jeff. I'm sitting in 2018 or 19, and I was at the Conference USA spring meetings. And in this room, you had Tim Floyd, college coaching legend. You had Kermit Davis. This is when I'm at UAB. You had Dusty May. Okay. You had Grant McCaslin in the room. You have all these like amazing coaches. And they're talking about, hey, guys, there's going to be a world where people are going to transfer and not sit out. And everyone's like, no way. There's no way that could happen. Or you guys, like, that's going to ruin college basketball. And I remember thinking to myself, it's definitely happening. It's definitely coming. And if you don't have the ability to adapt quickly and focus on things you can control, you're going to get lost quickly. And I mean, I think all coaches, have like, however you feel about everything that's happened. I think just the crazy, insane part is the rapid pace.
Yeah.
And just how quickly, and we are adjusting on the fly. I mean, rules are changing on the fly. When I got the job last year, Jeff, crazy story. We had to get 11 new guys, and we only had like 5 or 6 official visits left. So we're like, how do we even put a team together if you can't visit the guys? Well, in the midst of us recruiting last year, in the middle of the recruiting period, they changed the rule to unlimited visits. Well, it would have been nice to know that a couple weeks ago. Like, I mean, and you can get mad and frustrated, but if you just, in this world, in this day and age, you got to be ready to adapt, adjust, try to learn year from year, what you've taken away and keep it moving. But man, I can't think of an industry that's had this much rapid change as fast as we've had without really any guardrails, to be honest.
How different are you as a coach than you were 2016 to 2020? What lessons did you learn that maybe stuff I didn't know? And
yeah,
now I do.
I think the biggest basketball thing is like I micromanaged offense as when I was a head coach at UAB. 275 plays, in our playbook. I'm calling every single one as a head coach. And I think what I learned in just studying and taking some time away is to allow some of the guys to be the best versions of themselves. You want to give them structure, but you also want to give them freedom and confidence. And I think, going back to this year, as you said, I gave the guys a ton of freedom offensively, and it led to some absolutely incredible performances by individuals, by our teams. And so I think it's about finding that balance. But I think on the basketball court, that's the biggest change in me. And then I think the last part is I think I'm just a much better CEO than I was before. I mean, just way better, to be honest. I have better perspective. I know who I am. I try to empower and delegate my coaches much more than I used to. When I was a younger head coach, I was pretty much doing everything on my own. So I think, when you become a head coach, there's the coaching part of it, and then there's the CEO part of it. And now in today's day, there's the GM part of it, right? There used to be 2. Now there's 3. So I think, me growing in the CEO part is probably the biggest, change that I had going from being a head coach before to being a head coach now.
You mentioned GM. It's something that's leaking into the entire sport, but it's trickled down to the mid-major level. I know Murray State officially has one. Is that something that you plan to have at some point in the future?
Yeah, I think it's all about the resources. And, I think at our level, you haven't seen many of them like a GM. And I don't know if that role will replace a coach, or will that be a role? I think the other thing, a university like ours and Missouri Valley schools, you got to figure out, is that a role that could be for multiple sports? Is that again, we're just moving so fast and trying to figure it out. I give our coaching staff a ton of credit because we kind of all are GMs. And I joked last year that I'm qualified to interview for an NBA GM job, jokingly, right? But really, after another year of doing this, roster construction and how it works, and as our university moves to scholars to 15 roster spots, and Now you're also managing scholarship numbers on in-state kids, international kids, and all those are different financial numbers, and those affect, different things. So it's been a heck of an experience. I do think, like, I went to UC Davis, great academic institution. I have an MBA. So I do think, my background educationally has actually helped financially too here as we've tried to put all this together. But man, it's a lot more than coaching now. That's for sure.
Transfer portal. If my math is right, you guys have signed 6 out of the portal so far. Just in terms of your priority, once you got it done with the season, what was the priority when you guys jumped in?
Yeah, I mean, we were in a unique situation because we had 5 seniors who all were in our top 7. Okay. And then we had a couple redshirt freshmen and 3 high school freshmen. So we were in the middle of this, a lot of freshmen incoming and a lot of seniors. So what it left was, a younger roster and some of the guys that we signed, that we're really excited about. But then also trying to replace some of the older guys that we lost. And then we had 1 or 2, I think, transfer out. So good balance. We're almost done here as we're putting our roster together. Really excited about some of the guys that we've signed. I think we did an amazing job last year of recruiting high character kids. I think we've done that again this year so far in the portal. We feel like we're putting the pieces together that's going to have a chance to compete for a championship, and we're excited about it.
The answer to this may be a little column A, a little column B, but in terms of prioritizing targets in the portal, there's always kind of like there's 2 columns almost of, do you go find guys that have been very successful maybe at a lower level and you're going to try to bring them up, or kids like I like to call them distressed assets, like I think you Elijah Crawford, a 4-star kid out of high school, goes to BYU, doesn't really play, but you have the pedigree kind of coming in that you're going to hope to try to unlock that. Is there one of those paths that you may prioritize over the other?
We tried both paths, Jeff, to be honest. And a lot of it is where the NIL, where the financials are, what the market is, really for us, dictated kind of which path we were going on. I thought we did a pretty decent job last year of having like almost 50-50 in terms of what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. You had an Ahmad Henderson, from Niagara. You had Sasha Siani from Xavier. Both came here. Both had really, really good years. We are kind of more Elijah Crawford, as you mentioned, would be on one side of the bucket, a guy who comes from a high major. One of the BYU was on one of the best teams in the country. And there's a connection, between him and I from one of his high school recruitment days. And then you have, Ante Bellion, a guy from Little Rock who averaged 10 points a game. We're more on that side this year. It's just kind of shaken out that way. There's not necessarily a strategy as much as like, what kind of players do we need? The NIL piece, how do we all fit it together? Who do we want? Who do we think would be a great fit for our team? And that's kind of how we've gone about it.
It feels like the building of programs is kind of taking a backseat to it's a year by year team thing because there's so much turnover from year to year. What is the biggest challenge for you that on June 1st, when you guys all get together and start putting this thing together, that by the time you get to November 1st, you have done the best job of team building in such a short window of time with a whole lot of new faces?
For me, I think, honestly, as silly as it sounds, the biggest challenge is the basketball terminology and familiarity and the chemistry within plays. And I think the best example that we saw this year, even though they were all new, was Drake, Coach McCollum. All new guys, but they had all played together. I just think there's such a big advantage. And, in our league last year, Bradley had probably as much retention continuity as anyone in the country. And when you've been running some of the same sets and you have some of the same basketball terminology, and you're doing similar concepts, obviously you're just going to be way more advanced. And I think I saw this last year too. Again, it takes a while for guys to get to really, maybe be comfortable playing with each other within a system and knowing, hey, when we run this play, this guy's going to be looking for me here because we've done it for a while. So I think some of those basketball on the court challenges, especially with the hours, that we're limited to work with the guys in the summer and lead into the season. I think that will be with as many new guys as we're going to have and going through it last year in a similar mode. That'll be probably a challenge that we'll focus on a little bit more.
Birthday's tomorrow. You got big plans?
Oh, as you get older, Jeff, they plans, the parties tend to not be as big, especially on if you're not turning 40 or 50. So no, excited to be with my family and no recruiting this weekend. All right. So no visits. So yeah,
that's a present unto itself, isn't it?
Exactly.
Before I let you go, I came across this yesterday. A former staffer at UAB named Alex Church, and I saw the Reverend sort of walking them through their big day. How did we become a Reverend here?
So it's funny. I'll tell you how this all started. When I got married, my wife and I had her older brother do our wedding, officiate it. And one of my best friends at the time was at the wedding and said, "That's what I want my wedding to be like." He said, "Rob," this was in 2000. I mean, this is 10 years ago. He said, "Rob, would you do our wedding?" So I officiated my first wedding again, probably a while ago, 10 years ago, roughly. And since then, Jeff, it's kind of been my thing. This is probably my 8th or 9th wedding I've officiated. Wow. Believe it or not, almost all of them are basketball, former coaches. I've done 4 or 5 former players. So we joke in recruiting that if you come to UIC, you get the scholarship, but you can also get a free, the officiant package will be thrown in there too. But it's been a cool thing for me just to be a part of, this is Alex Church, my GA. I was his first boss at UAB. He's kind of he does some stuff in the basketball profession with creative editing and marketing stuff. So a cool way. This was last week, obviously, but yeah, cool thing that I've kind of somehow wiggled my way into.
Now, listen, in this financial era of college basketball, there's some creativity that needs to be involved. I mean, this could be a little NIL deal, like, hey, Reverend Rob will come out and maybe for some amount of money that can go to the UIC collective. I mean, that's you've got a little bit of downtime in the summer. You could probably squeeze some of these in.
You got to be creative. I don't know. Outside of people that know me, I don't know how much of a market there is for that. But it's been a cool. It was a cool experience last week.
Rob Ehsan, get ready for year number 2 up at UIC. Thanks so much for the time. Enjoy the birthday tomorrow. Hopefully, if nothing else, you get a nap and some cake, and hopefully we can talk soon.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you having me.
All right, thank you. There's Coach Ehsan, and really did. You try not to scare our guests, but I said multiple times in November and December, I was like, man, I love UIC. I love the way they're playing. They all those guys just going downhill, and it was like they're going to get to the basket until somebody gets in their way, and they did. They really caused some issues for some folks at the tippy top of the Missouri Valley, and I thought they had an opportunity. Again, they beat Drake at home. They should have beat Bradley at home until Duke Dean threw his cape on at the end and was able to just steal one there in Chicago. But then they go to Peoria and just wax the Braves, and at that point, I think they were 14-7. I think they're like 7-4 in the league. And the way the league was shaping up, I thought there's an opportunity here that they are going to not even backdoor it. But I thought UIC had a chance to get themselves into a top 4 seed and a first round bye at Arch Madness. But it just, as he said, things just kind of went sideways for him the last couple of weeks. And then maybe in what felt like, in hindsight, maybe we shouldn't have been surprised. And Valpo went on a little bit of a heater there at Arch Madness, but to get picked off in that 6-11 game, maybe shouldn't have been a surprise, just the way they played down the stretch. But he is, again, no losing seasons as a head coach and doing good things up there in Chicago. All right, well, we'll talk with head coach David Ragland from Evansville. He will be with us here in just a moment. But while we wait for Coach Ragland, we've got some player movement to talk about. Northern Iowa has gone, and we talk about the distressed assets. And I think this is one that counts as one. Marino Dubravcic from Croatia. He is 6'10". He is played his freshman season at Baylor, 18 games, only played about 3 minutes a night, didn't even average a point a game. But again, for Ben Jacobson, you're just going to bet on the pedigree, and you're going to bet on the upside and the ceiling and the potential. You can get a 6'10" dude in there that is raw, but you got 3 years to be able, hopefully, to be able to work with him and really get some good stuff out of him. The other one from the other aisle, as we've talked about, is Tristan Smith, the NAIA All-American from Concordia, getting an extra year because of his time at the NAIA level. 6'5" wing forward, but he averaged 21 points, almost 9 rebounds, shot 68% from the field. He is a guy that can provide some offense there on the wing. Strong kid, can finish around the basket. And that'll be interesting to see how Coach Jacobson able to utilize Mr. Smith. All right, it is now time to welcome in guest number 2 as the head coach of the Evansville Purple Aces. He is David Ragland. Coach Ragland, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Good morning to you.
We just talked with Rob Ehsan, who's celebrating a birthday tomorrow. You just celebrated your birthday on Monday. So what was the best gift we got this year to celebrate the big day?
Oh man, just another trip around the sun. The older you get, the more you appreciate those.
That is true.
So many blessings. Just being back home is great, and then having 2 kids that I see as babies that are no longer babies at 17 and 15 is a blessing. Seeing them evolve into their adulthood, and just being able to be back home in Evansville, and in a program that I love dearly, and in a city that I grew up in, and being able to help mentor the group that we have, man, is a huge blessing. So too many to count, but another trip around the sun to be able to try to go and do it again.
What's it like coaching in your literal hometown? I mean, there are adopted hometowns, but it is your hometown. I mean, is it on the blessing pressure scale? Maybe which one? I know the blessing is a lot, but is there some sort of burden or pressure to try and succeed in your town where everybody and everybody knows you?
Not as much. I think the blessing that helps through all of it. We all know that we signed up. Basketball coaches sign up for really, really tough jobs to be able to lead, young people and help them to be the best version of themselves, and, try to win games at the same time and graduate people and all that. It's tough. It's stressful. It's very difficult. You're trying to, just, encourage people while encouraging yourself, but having the support from people that know you, that know your heart, that really appreciate the effort that is put into it is such a true blessing. And a lot of times, like when you go to places, you're trying to get people to know the real you, and embrace what you're about, and embrace your family, and all those things. And a lot of times it's harder for your family, your wife, your kids, to navigate being in a new town and a new setting. And all those things have been great. My mother's still here. She's still on the school board. My father's deceased, but he was on so many different boards and very active in the community. I got an older brother that's here, and he's still active in the community and our youth and different things like that. So like coming back home to a group of people that know you, understand you, and know your work ethic and just your character is good while we navigate reviving a story program.
Well, part of that revival is having some stability at the head coaching position, and you recently got yourself a contract extension through 29-30. Just from a perspective of you personally, your staff, the whole deal. What's that mean when the boss comes in and it likes what he sees enough to keep you around for a few more years?
Yeah, absolutely. It means the world. We have great leaders here in Evansville. Community leaders, but also university leaders. Our president, Pres P, is off the charts. Just very innovative, but he also knows the mission and the goal, and that's the students. here at the University of Evansville and their experience. And he also understands the importance of athletics. And we have a great leader in Dr. Ziggy. They're unbelievable people, and they have the same core values, and that's the student athlete experience, and making sure that it's a first class one. And they also understand that we inherited a lot as a staff since I've been here, since my staff has been with me. That the program was not in the best of shapes for a number of reasons. We were just coming out of COVID. Just a lot, and we needed new guidance and new energy, and we've been able to provide that. And then we've added some, I guess, consistency with that.
Yeah.
And we've done some really good things, from an academic standpoint. In our APR, our GPA has skyrocketed for our team in the years that we've been here. We went from one of the biggest turnarounds in college basketball from year 1 to year 2 to the best Division I start in the history of our program, which there's been some really, really good teams and good players and good coaches. So that's a great feat there to, doing things that haven't been done in a decade since we've been here, from our total wins in year 2 to winning the conference tournament game to playing in the postseason and winning the postseason game, that this past season winning as many conference games as we have in a decade. But, to see all those things, develop, that's what our leaders and Presby and Dr. Ziggy saw, which gave us more time to continue to build and grow. And I understand Rome was not built in a day. So we do have aspirations of being Missouri Valley Conference champs, but it takes time to do that. And, we slowly climb from, last to 10th, the tie for 8th in one game out of finishing 5th. And that's a progression that you want to have while you graduate kids and have model citizens in your community. So it means a lot, and I'm grateful for it.
The overall record, you guys scheduled hard last year. You had injuries early that kind of derailed some things. But when you look at just the conference progression, as you said, going from 12th to 10th to 8th, but 1 win to 6 to 8 wins now, what are you most proud of? And it's so hard. And I was talking with Coach Ehsan a couple minutes ago. It's hard now, seemingly, to build programs because
Right.
there's so much turnover all the time. But
Right.
your growth here in 3 years with your program, what are you most proud of?
Yeah, that we have not cut any corners. I tell people, I get it. It's a different day and age, and it's hard for a lot of people to wrap their minds around it. Especially in like communities. College towns are usually smaller communities, and a lot of times that's the show. In the Missouri Valley, basketball is a deal. So, a lot of our fan bases have enjoyed watching young people grow from their redshirt year to freshman and the sophomore, junior, senior, all the way up to the redshirt senior year, and you kind of know them more. You hear their stories and their backgrounds and the obstacles that they've overcome. So like those days are fading away. But what we talked about with our fan base and with our supporters and stakeholders is that there may be names that change, but the quality of person is not. Like, we're still going to recruit and bring in, people that understand the responsibility they have as a student and that are going to compete in the classroom. We're going to get guys that continue to work hard and play for each other on the court, that give everything that they have every single day, that aren't going to embarrass the community, the university, obviously our program, the name on the front of the jersey or the name on the back. So those things are never going to change. So even though the name on the back and the faces do, the person that puts on the uniform won't change.
You guys have been, I don't know, victimized is the right word. It kind of depends on your stance in the world. But in terms of finding diamonds in the rough, the
Right.
Ben Humrichhouses, the Gabriel Pizzatos, and big schools come in and they just pluck them out and go. And how and I guess again, speaking to the program building and so on, just how challenging is it for you guys and the staff where you're like, man, we found somebody that nobody knows about, and then
Yeah.
those dudes are dudes, and everybody knows about them in a hurry, and then you're just like, we can't we can't fend
Yeah.
off the attackers.
Yeah. That's the beauty of it. That's
Yeah.
what we signed up for. Like we believe in, let's do our job. Let's identify the right individuals for our community university program, and then let's pour into them. It's all about developing young people and putting them in the best position to be successful in life when it's all said and done. And you hope that's going to be for multiple years. You hope it's going to be for 4 years, 5 years, whatever. But if it's 9 months, it's 9 months. And when they leave, like I just, talked back and forth with Ben the other day. When they leave, you're still going to have a lifelong relationship with them. Gabriel is leaving today. He's going to come in and stop and say, "See you later" to us. And
Yeah.
it was hard for him to say, "I'm moving on," because Evansville means a ton to him. And he from his words, from his mouth, is he wouldn't be where he's at if Evansville wouldn't have gave him the opportunity that we did. So we're doing the job that we've been called to do, and we're doing it to our best ability. And you hope that it ends up being a longer time that you're able to coach and mentor them. But if it's not, you still got to do the job that you're called to do. And I know wholeheartedly, myself, the staff, we've done that. And what it ends up doing is, like, it creates others. Other people do see, like, the I guess pain of it is that the Ben Humberhouses, the Gabriels, the Tayshawn Comers, those guys move on, but then other people are like, oh, they got something going on there, and you pick up an AJ Casey or different ones that we've been able to attract because they see, man, something special is going on at UE.
This might be the most glass half full question ever, but when you have you and your staff are able to identify, evaluate, find these diamonds and bring them in, and then they get plucked away, does at least, I mean, again, I I understand the ridiculousness of this, but is it at least an affirmation to you guys as a staff that we're doing our job, we're doing a good job at finding the right guys that ultimately other people are going to want?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it is a weird, like, concept to think about, but it's kind of an affirmation that we were right. And I remember to this day, we signed Ben, and there were a lot of people, fan base and just people around. And this is where we try to tell our guys, like, block out the noise. And as coaches, we got to do the same. The question was, man, is he good enough? And that quickly changed once the season started, and now we're later into the season, and we all know what he's doing and where he's at now. But it is a little bit of affirmation that yes, we are, we have a good feel for identifying talent and then developing talent. That's all, like, recruiting is you got to identify it first, and then you got to make sure that it works, that it fits, that you make it as effective as you can within your system, and we've done it.
We talked about guys leaving, but you got some guys that stuck around, and maybe most significantly, the defensive player of the year, Connor Turnbull, back. You got Joshua Hughes coming back as well. Two just pillars in the middle. What excites you the most about having those two guys being part of the team again next year, and being able to build around them down low?
Man, it means a lot. That's probably the hardest thing, recruiting period. And then once you get into the portal, hardest position to go and get are guys with size. And, I think about our defensive numbers and what we've been able to do defensively by the numbers. We're second in the league this past year, second to Drake, who obviously had an unbelievable season in the system. But defensive player of the year, and Connor Turnbull led us in blocks, led the conference in blocks. And then Joshua Hughes was number 4 in the conference in blocks. And, their rim protection, their ability to switch and guard multiple positions and protect the paint really, really helps us by the numbers. It helps kind of frame our defense, and then we can, build it from the inside out. But their experience of playing in the league, their understanding of our defensive philosophy and communication and terminology and all that is important. And then them knowing what we're doing offensively. Like we do a lot when we play through our posts because we like to have people away from the rim. If their man's away from the rim, now we're able to get to the rim with our guards and with their drives, with their cuts. They're willing and good passers. And then we're going to continue to improve. Both of them are proven shooters, not so much last year, but continue to prove that. And it just means a lot for our offense, just as much our defense. But it gives us an opportunity to build off of like two really good, versatile big guys.
3 guys you got out of the portal: Marlon Barnes from Pittsburgh, Keyshawn Porter, North Carolina Central, AJ Casey, part of a Final Four team at Miami, went to St. Louis. What was your priority going in, trying to fill some holes, and without getting too deep in the weeds, sort of the nickel scouting report on those 3 on why they were good fits for you guys?
Yeah, our biggest thing has been since we've been here, positional size. And we've done a really good job with that. All 3 of those guys have positional size with the ability to move. They're all athletic, all have an ability to shoot from the perimeter, and that's kind of how we're looking to continue to build our offensive side of our program. But you look at starting with AJ Casey. I mean, he's been in college. He's played. Everybody wants to go play for a national championship. He's as close as anyone has been on our roster, being able to be part of a Final Four team and have that experience. And then, we just think that with his size, his athleticism, his physicality, he could really help us with those strengths that he has. And then Keyshawn Porter, being at North Carolina Central, being a double-digit scorer, good athlete that disrupts on the defensive end. It felt like that was a important piece that we needed going into this year. And then another very talented, yet unproven guard and Marlon Barnes was a big pickup just for length, athleticism, the ability to shoot the perimeter shot. But again, as you put a team together, you need all the pieces, and I think these are very good pieces that we've been able to add to our program.
Last question before I let you get out of here. Today, we'll call it a little belated birthday present. You are officially appointed the czar of college basketball. You get to change one rule. What's it going to be?
How long we have? No,
just one rule. Just one.
Yeah, I would love just contracts with buyouts.
Okay.
When it comes to NIL, and I'm all for these young people getting paid, but contracts, multiple years with buyout options and a salary cap would be that's all in one. So contracts.
Well, you got yourself a new contract, and congratulations on that to you and your staff. Have done a great job here through the first 3 years, and enjoy. I know there's about 10 minutes of downtime here in the summer. Hopefully you get some here soon, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. I love what you're doing for the Valley. Appreciate you doing this, and I enjoy working with you. So thanks for the time this morning,
Coach. Thank you. All right, there's David Ragland, and again, they said you look at the overalls, 5 wins to 17, got to the quarterfinals of the CBI, only 11 total wins last year. But said they scheduled a meat grinder early. Pizzato had some back injuries; he was out. But you just see when they were healthy to go from 1 to 6 to 8. But they're on the rise, and it's nice to see the administration supporting him and giving him that contract extension. See what they'll be able to do. But it really has been. There have been. It happens around the league, but just 2 big pieces in back-to-back years that folks have come down and sort of plucked out of Evansville in Ben Hummerkraus, who goes to Illinois, Gabriel Pizzato going now to Xavier. Those are tough pieces to replace, but as he has shown and he and his staff have shown that they'll they'll find new ones, and we'll see what they're able to bring in for the Purple Aces this year. All right, a couple more transactional pieces here from the last couple of days at Drake. Head coach Eric Henderson dipping into some guys he was familiar with. To start, Griffin Goodberry has signed. He was the 6'10", signed with South Dakota State. He was the South Dakota Gatorade Player of the Year, signed again with South Dakota State back in the fall. He has now flipped his commitment to follow the head coach he has signed with, Eric Henderson. He is headed to Drake, as has Bryson Ball, who is from Nebraska, 6'5", small forward, also signed with South Dakota State, also now signed with Drake, 22 points, 8.5 rebounds in high school. And, this is kind of the prime example that we talk about all the time. And I know sometimes it hurts fans when you say, kids sign with coaches. They don't sign with schools, and it's all about relationships. And so, these guys feeling comfortable with Coach Henderson, and when he left South Dakota State to head to Drake, and he felt that they would be able to contribute and help at Drake, and man, that relationship is already built, and they're ready to step right in and help out. Coach Matthew Graves over at Indiana State has signed Zaire Green, 6'3" guard from Division II, Georgia College and State University down in Milledgeville, Georgia. He's played 4 years down there. Last season averaged 20 points a game, 39% from three. So a dude that can go out and get some buckets for you. And the way that Indiana State wants to get up and down, and they want to shoot threes, and they want to score a bunch of points, feels like Zaire Green is going to fit right into that mold for Coach Graves. And finally, this morning at Southern Illinois, head coach Kelly Bond White has announced the signing of Eba Malkawi, 6'7" guard out of Northeastern Oklahoma A&M. She is a Texas native, played 2 years down there at Northeastern Oklahoma, started all 31 games last season, 9.5 points, 3.5 rebounds, 1.5 steals per game. But it fills a point guard void. She can play the one, she can play the two, but they really had a point guard deficiency last year, and some of these most recent signings from Kelly Bond White are helping fill that void in Carbondale. All right, that does it for this Friday edition of Morning in the Valley. Coming up on Monday, we will talk with new Valpo women's head coach Courtney Boyd. On Wednesday, the commissioner of the Missouri Valley Conference, Jeff Jackson, will be with us, as well as Drake women's head coach Allison Pullman. I hope you like what you've seen so far here at Morning in the Valley. Please share it with all your Missouri Valley Conference loving friends. We would appreciate it. Go to YouTube, find Morning in the Valley, subscribe to that, help get the word out to all of our Valley friends, as we're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. during the off season, bringing you year-round coverage, Missouri Valley Conference men's and women's basketball. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you on Monday, and thanks for watching Morning in the Valley.